The German Tiger tank, officially named Panzerkampfwagen VI, earned a formidable reputation during the Second World War, and continues to captivate scholars and the public alike. Its legendary status is due in part to the commanders who led these powerful machines, including the renowned Panzer Aces, like Michael Wittmann and Otto Carius. Despite their fame, there were many other skilled Tiger commanders, who fought bravely on both the Western and Eastern fronts, but have largely faded into obscurity over time. Franz Staudegger was one of these lesser-known Tiger commanders. Staudegger joined the army shortly after finishing school in 1940. He was initially assigned to the infantry training battalion of the 1st SS Panzer Division, Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler, LAH, and was wounded during his initial skirmish as an infantryman. After his recovery, he was sent to train to become a tank commander of the new dreaded weapon, the massive Tiger tank, towards the end of 1942. Initially, he served on the Panzer III tank and later switched to the Tiger, following his promotion. Although he was perceived as a brash commander to the point of being reckless, his courage was undeniable. And his most famous moment occurred during the Battle of Kursk, in July 1943. No battle of World War II has been more discussed, or debated, than the Battle of Kursk, which was part of Hitler's Operation Citadel. The entire battle lasted from July 5 to August 23, 1943, and is considered one of the key turning points of the Second World War. While Hitler hoped to decisively defeat Soviet troops here, he and his military leaders made gross miscalculations that ultimately cost him the entire Eastern Front. Staudegger's story begins on the warm night of 5th of July, the opening day of the Battle of Kursk. Following a grueling day of combat, he set out to rejoin his unit under the cover of darkness. Along the way, Staudegger came across a tank blocking the road, and its commander, who was smoking a cigarette while perched on the turret. As he dismounted his Tiger to instruct the individual to clear the path, he discovered that the tank was actually a Russian T-34. Despite the circumstances, Staudegger's infantry training kicked in, and he remained composed as he retrieved one of his grenades, armed it, and threw at the T-34 hatch. Upon impact, the explosion illuminated the presence of another T-34, positioned directly behind the first one. He dashed towards the newly revealed tank, and as the crew lifted their hatches to investigate the situation, he tossed a second hand grenade into this tank, and destroyed it. Staudegger then returned to his Tiger and resumed his return to his unit. For the destruction of 2 tanks in close combat, he was awarded with an Iron Cross First Class, the very next day. To knock out 2 T-34s with grenades alone was undoubtedly impressive, yet it was eventually eclipsed by what occurred 3 days later. Operation Citadel marked a pivotal moment in the war, with the formidable Tigers of the LAH tasked with hammering the Soviet defenses in the southern region of the designated area. Despite their strength, the fierce combat inflicted significant damage upon many of the steel behemoths, including Staudegger's Tiger, rendering it unable to participate in the upcoming assault on July 8. Frustrated, he just sat around while his tank underwent repairs, resigned to the idea that he would not be joining the fray that day. However, destiny had other plans in store for him. At roughly 10 a.m., a distressing message arrived at the company repair encampment, indicating that a Soviet assault convoy consisting of 50 to 60 tanks was rapidly advancing from the northwest. Staudegger's Tiger was the sole remaining tank available to counter the threat, as all the other Tigers had already been committed to other goals. Without hesitation, Staudegger made the snap decision to conduct emergency repairs on his vehicle and confront the enemy head-on. His crew readily concurred with his plan. Following the hasty repairs, which left the tracks in a precarious state, the Tiger cautiously advanced towards the approaching Soviet force, arriving just in the nick of time to rescue fragments of the infantry battalion Deutschland from being completely overrun. 2 Soviet tanks had already been decimated by the infantry before the arrival of the Tiger. The Tiger's intervention altered the course of the battle, and the crew, directed by the infantry, promptly knocked out 3 T-34 tanks. Just as they thought they had gained the upper hand, 2 additional Russian tanks unexpectedly emerged from behind an embankment and opened fire. Staudegger's driver maneuvered the tank quickly to face the new threat, and those were also swiftly eliminated. As more and more Soviet tanks emerged from behind the embankment, they were destroyed one by one, until Staudegger and his crew knocked out 17 enemy tanks, before the Soviets decided to call it a day and started retreating. The Tiger was hit several times, but its thick hide proved to be impenetrable to the Soviet 76mm guns. By that stage, Staudegger's crew, particularly the loader who had done a tremendous job, was completely exhausted. However, Staudegger remained determined to press forward, instructing his crew to advance towards the Soviet positions, as the colossal steel monster began moving gradually to chase down the withdrawing Soviet tanks. The Germans didn't have to move far. The Soviets were regrouping right behind the lines, in a forest. Unprepared for a solo tank assault, they were in for a shock when they witnessed the Tiger gradually emerging from the woods. By this point, Staudegger's tank had run out of armor-piercing shells. Despite this, he and his crew persisted in engaging the enemy with high-explosive ammunition. Although these shells lacked the ability to penetrate armor, these large-caliber shells were still able to inflict catastrophic battle damage on the enemy, as evidenced by the destruction of an additional 5 Soviet tanks. Eventually, as the Tiger continued to sustain damage and was in danger of losing its mobility, Staudegger ordered a retreat. When Staudegger and his crew arrived at the German lines, their tank had sustained heavy damage. The suspension was heavily damaged, the track was nearly gone, and the tank had been hit 67 times by the Soviet 76mm guns. The crew, including Staudegger, was completely exhausted and on the brink of collapse. However, the Soviet attack had been broken. Staudegger and his crew had played a crucial role in stopping the Russian attack, and had destroyed a total of 22 Russian tanks. As a result of their actions, Staudegger became the first ever Tiger crewman to be awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross. He was subsequently personally invited by Adolf Hitler himself to recount the operation. Staudegger lived through the war and died peacefully in 1995. His heroic actions on July 8 are just one of the many fierce armored battles in the East, showcasing the resilience and destructive capability of one of the deadliest tanks of World War II.